2, 1. Hello, everyone. You're listening to a Coffees with Toffees podcast. I'll be your host, Flubb, and welcome to the Brewmaster's Draft, a show where we talk about a little bit about Dota and a little bit about beer. As always, I'm joined today with my ever-talented co-host, Kimbrell. Kimbrell, how you doing today, man?
Hey, everyone. I'm doing pretty well. This last week has been a weird week for me. I haven't played a lot of Dota, actually, but it's been some personal things going on. It's just been kind of an odd week, one I haven't had to really deal with in a while. But yeah, overall, I'm doing good today. So how are you doing?
Well, I was going to ask you how was your Easter, but I think we'll just go right on past that then. I'm pretty good, you know. I'm just generally doing the dotes and enjoying myself. I've kind of been up and down constantly. I think I've just like found my niche. I'm just around 5K at this point. So I can't seem to really break that hump of going over like 5.3. So I just like kind of bounce between 4.9 and 5.2. So
Yeah.
it's all right. My weekend's been super uneventful though. For a holiday, I guess Easter's probably the lamest one for me. But it used to be such a big deal when you were a kid, you know, like the eggs and everything. And now as an adult,
Oh, yeah.
I'm just like, I could eat some candy, but it's not quite as big a deal as it used to be for some reason.
Yeah, it's just a matter of, like with me, it's just families getting together and we're having food. Family
Yep.
and friends. Like Saturday, I got together with some friends. We cooked out, had steaks and stuff. And then Sunday, we had steaks again with my fiance's family. So it was nothing crazy, you know?
I don't know, man. That's a pretty good weekend, having steak
Oh,
twice in a
yeah,
row.
absolutely. I can't, nothing wrong with that, man.
Exactly. All right, so we're here to talk about the most important thing, drinking. Everyone loves drinking. So, first off, Kimbrell, what are you sipping on today?
All right, so since last week I was drinking a green tea and you got to have an IPA, I went ahead and got one of my favorite IPAs. It's a Shiner Wicked Ram. I've talked about Shiner before. Um, but yeah, it's pretty good. What's on it? It says Wicked Ram IPA. It's an India Pale Ale is what it says. But yeah, it's really good. It's one of my favorites. I've always enjoyed Shiners, any type of beer that they put out. So
Nice. Yeah, I'm going back to Beachwood again. I mean, obviously, it's all the same stuff that Frozen has sent me. It's amazing stuff. But this week I got a new one, Udder Love Milk Stout. It's actually a really cool symbol. It looks like it's a little cow, and like the head of the cow is actually a beer like stein or beer mug. It's really cool. I really enjoy this. The not only the art on it, but the beer. It's pretty good so far.
yeah.
It's a milk stout, Udder Love. So Udder Love is a traditional milk stout that's packed with rich flavors. We begin with the British Maris Otter malt. I don't really know what British Maris Otter malt is, but it tastes good so far. For a toasty foundation, then layer on 3 different types of British roasted malts of coffee and bittersweet chocolate flavors. The beer is finished with a milk sugar from the heart of America's dairyland, Wisconsin, adding a silky mouthfeel. Enjoy the soothe and luscious milk stout and fall utterly in love. Wow. Fall utterly in love. Wow. Okay. And then the actually won a medal. Obviously, it contains lactose, so if you are lactose intolerant, I would not order a milk stout in general, but they have to put it on there for legal reasons. The gold medal that they won was at the Great American Beer Festival in 2012. So,
Sweet.
good. It's good to be drinking medal-winning beer. It tastes
Yeah.
pretty good. Its ABV is 5.9. So,
Okay.
just a little,
Never-
you know, not too heavy, but it's pretty good. How heavy is
Yeah.
yours?
It's just 6 point. So I hardly ever look at it, but yeah, 6.0 alcohol.
Yeah, I guess it really doesn't matter unless you're hitting like above 10. Then I'm like, oh man, this one's good packs a punch.
Yeah, like that one week where it was like 12 something, and you're like 2 beers in, like I need some water.
Yeah, maybe I'm just a lightweight. I don't feel like I am. I'm a big guy, but you know, but when it goes above 10, it gets pretty ridiculous. So all right, we've already talked about the beer, gave you a little introduction. Now let's talk about the draft. All right, so I took a little extra crazy juice this morning, and I came up with a ridiculous draft. It's kind of something going back to my roots and really pushing the boundaries of the idea of drafting in general and where positions should be. So it's kind of like with the old idea that I had of sniper support. That's an idea that I've always run around. If you are new to like my style of drafting and my style of play, sniper support is something that I've talked about, and it's something that I've written about as well. So with this draft, I'm going into a direction of, instead of the core going into a support, I'm going support into core. And I'm going to have this draft be set up as Earth Spirit being picked first. That's going to be the first pick. Go into a Beastmaster, then Crystal Maiden, Shadow Demon, and Phantom Lancer at the end. Now, it's pretty weird. It's pretty weird. But Kimbrell, what's your first impressions of this idea starting off?
I mean, I'm hoping Shadow Demon's mid because he was one of my favorite heroes for the longest time. And he still is, but he kind of got, I don't know, overused, I guess, overplayed with the illusion spamming. But he was one of my favorites, especially during the Sniper Troll Warlord meta. I love that hero. But it's interesting. I didn't really know how to take it. I assumed Phantom Lancer's obviously going to be in the safe lane, but picking out the mid hero was like, I'm gonna guess Shadow Demon, but there's no telling with you sometimes. So let's just hear what you got.
Yeah, all right. I won't leave you dangling too much. All right. So the idea of this draft is basically, I've been thinking a lot about the potential of what heroes are able to do, and like the heroes that are being picked right now, and the heroes that are being banned. And a lot of times when you're looking at the meta, you kind of go to a point where you look at something and you say, okay, what is the most popular bans, and why are they? What's kind of the counterpart, or the reason that I can take advantage of these heroes being banned? And a lot of times the heroes are being banned just because they're crazy good and the potential that they have in the current meta. If you look at that potential that they have, and you see what they kind of what they can counter later on, it just kind of destroys all the counters of the hero, and then you can kind of go down that certain pathway. So I was looking at a lot on Abaddon and Legion, and I kind of looked at these heroes and I said, okay, they're very good right now because they kind of have the purge mechanic, and it kind of gets around you having to worry about getting like early Lotus Orbs in general. You can have someone that pretty much has the ability to get a Lotus Orb in the very beginning, that, you know, purges these effects that are very strong right now, whether it's roots or stuns or whatever importance that needs to be set up. It's kind of an end-all be-all to these problems. So I was looking at that, and I was thinking, okay, what is a hero that kind of fails to that? What are the heroes that like just don't do well, and they're not popular right now because of that? I was thinking Shadow Demon. And Shadow Demon, it doesn't work because of the purge system, and his actual explosion goes off too early. So if you purge his Shadow Poison, it actually goes off at the amount that is there. It doesn't actually stack up anymore. It doesn't take it away and make it so that you don't deal the damage, but it activates it early, which can screw up his whole rhythm. So if you're looking at that, you're seeing that potential, then that can be a problem. You're also looking at the idea of, okay, there's guys that have a lot of magic immune abilities, and it's like, okay, well, I can't do the damage because of the magic immune, but the one thing he can do is that he can always ult them and CC them into the situation, and then use his combination, and then use abilities around that. So that's kind of the idea, right? Is that like I take this idea of a hero and then I work it into the meta based on the style of what's popular. So that's kind of how I always draft in general. And by going into this pattern, I take Earth Spirit and Crystal Maiden because Crystal Maiden's really strong with Shadow Demon. Obviously, just because she gives a lot of mana. She gives that constant mana regen and just allows him to be the spamming hero that he can be in mid. Having that Shadow Wave just constantly harassing them out, really forcing out any squishy heroes in general. And the thing is they can stack up, and it's not one of those that a lot of times people like are worried about the amount of damage that it can do, and it can kind of do a harassment level of damage, and then all of a sudden you hit 3 ticks on the Shadow Poison and it just explodes the hero in damage. So it's kind of like you can kind of play the line with a harassment, whereas other heroes you can't play that line as easily, and then you go over to the shrines to heal up. It's not really available to do that anymore. And yes, you can use the availability of using a wand or something like that, but it doesn't really stop the potential of what a Shadow Demon can do, because his damage is just too explosive, and they have to leave lane. And if you can force a mid to leave lane in this meta, you've kind of won. And if you can get the farm at the same time, even doing, jungle camps, things like that, and that's kind of something that CM can set up. She can do the bigger creeps and at the same time be stacking. So if she's doing all these big creeps, you don't need as many Shadow Waves, and you're still getting experience and farm from these stacks in the jungle, or partial stacks in the jungle. So they kind of really help each other out quite a bit in that type of idea. Also, Crystal Maiden has that big area slow that whenever if Shadow Demon does an offensive egg, they can come into battle, they're slowed, and then the illusions are just smacking them up. The other idea is Earth Spirit. You want Earth Spirit because, okay, you have these quasi-stuns at this point, but you really don't have a true stun, and you don't have a true area stun, and that's always something that's needed on a team. Having that boulder is just a godsend to this hero, especially if you're going up against, let's say you're going up against Nakes, or you're going up against Jug. If you can time it, you can easily time it before that they hit their Q, both of their Qs, their magic immune abilities. You can set it up so that you're stunning them and then silencing them right after they get out of the egg. So a lot of combination once again. Also starts to add a initiator into the battle. It's really important to have an initiator, and having Earth Spirit as the initiator is a fantastic move to have. There's no real downside of him as the initiator in this setup. And it kind of lets your off lane kind of go into a more greedy path at this point. So that's why I go with the Beastmaster. Beastmaster can have that side initiation. He has that ability to go in with the Blink Dagger, but he's more about the split push, and he has the potential to just split push down a lot of towers and kind of be a force of nature on his own at bottom. He can do some of the jungling as well, so he has that potential to come out of the jungle instead of being in the off lane. Kind of forces the rotations to really help out mid and safe lane. Or, by like minute 15, he still has the potential of having a good ultimate by then easily, and having an ultimate with all the potential that Earth Spirit has and Beastmaster can just guarantee an easy kill. So the pick potential and push potential strong there. And then I end the draft, obviously, with the Phantom Lancer. If you're going with Phantom Lancer over any of the other heroes, this is kind of what I was thinking, is that he offers kind of a special thing to the meta that the others don't. And it's something I've kind of teetered on quite a bit. It's either him or even Terrorblade. Terrorblade's an option, or even Arc Warden. And I'll explain kind of all three real quick before I go too much further, but I'm going to explain how Phantom Lancer goes into this. And Phantom Lancer can kind of go an early bots build and still have a lot of potential for farming and split pushing in general. And if you can have that, if you can have a Phantom Lancer be moving around the jungle and he gets close to mid lane, and then Shadow Demon can egg and create his own illusions, so you have 2 illusions going into mid lane, while then your Phantom Lancer TP's top and pushes that lane, you have 3 split pushing heroes with Crystal Maiden and Earth Spirit off the map, potentially ganking anywhere. So you're putting a lot of pressure on the field. You have decent late game by having the Phantom Lancer and Beastmaster. Not great, but decent. And you're just able to really push every lane simultaneously with great potential. Whereas if you go into the Terrorblade, it's more of the grouping up as 4 type mentality. If you want to group up as 4, have that really strong potential to push down a lane, or even grouping up as 5 with Beastmaster, and just pushing down a lane potential, then it's a little bit stronger to go down that path. Obviously, his illusions are much stronger and have a lot more potential with his Metamorphosis. And then you go into Arc Warden, and this is where it gets tricky. You can go into Arc Warden instead of these other two, because you can have the illusion set up where he gets bots kind of early, and you go kind of the right-click path, and you have these items that you generally set up your hero with, where you can have TP boots, you have Maelstrom, you have all of these different avenues, and then you like lay down a lot of spells for damage whenever the illusion is created. So you can have your illusion TP to a lane, and then they can like set them up and be pushing and stuff, and you can lay down a spirit. And that spirit does a lot of damage, does a slow. And think about it this way. His spirits kind of suck unless you have a lot of setup. So if you can get the Shadow Demon to come in with a Blink Dagger, come in with some type of big farm initiation item, he can blink in on top of the person, put them in the egg, have the spirit down, because the spirit goes down, they're going to be there for a couple seconds. Immediately after they get out of the egg, they're going to get blasted with that damage, on top of Soul Catcher, on top of a slow, on top of illusions. It's a solo pick-off with an illusion-based hero. And then after the illusion's about to die, you could possibly egg the illusion if you can't set up a kill, and then you can split push even more with the illusions on top of it. So, kind of a whole arcing thing there. I kind of went off for like 10 minutes there. Sorry, Kimbrell. It's probably pretty boring for you, but
no, you're good.
So what do you think? What are the problems and pitfalls you see with this draft?
I think mobile heroes are an issue. I mean, Crystal Maiden's stun is good. Earth Spirit's stun and silence is fine. Mm-hmm. And then Beastmaster, like, I don't know. I feel like it's really weird. I like the Shadow Demon mid. It's something that I really enjoy. It's fun, especially when you're up against inexperienced people and they have no idea how much damage that poison does whenever you release it. But yeah, I don't know. It's an odd lineup for sure. I feel like a lot of things, as any other game, a lot of things will need to like absolutely go your way. Because I feel like if you fall behind at all on this with your draft, like the coming back from being behind, I don't think you have very good potential. But it's really interesting. I don't know. I kind of came up as usual with like a rebuttal, like a draft to go against it. And I've been able to like tinker with it and move things around, and I feel like each of those do decently well. I had Weaver as a carry. Now against Earth Spirit, that's a bit of an issue, but beyond the Earth Spirit, I feel like that hero is very mobile, and he's able to get in and out and kill your supports and your mid hero. But he would be the carry. I had either Timber mid, depending on what just trying to figure out what you're putting mid. I also put Viper mid to deal with the Shadow Demon poison, and then the Timber offlane. And then the supports, or I had Earthshaker offlane, but the supports I had were Earthshaker, which I feel like goes pretty well up against illusions, and then your draft is pretty illusion based from the Shadow Demon and the PL. And then I was trying to decide between Warlock and Phoenix. I feel like the Warlock would go really well with the Timber Saw and the Earthshaker. But Phoenix Egg essentially like just melts PL's illusions, and then anybody that's roared, he's able to just Sunray them and keep them alive. And reinitiate out of that fight, because the Ray does so much healing, unless you just have a crazy amount of burst damage. You're gonna have to throw quite a bit on the reward target to kill that person, I think. So anyway, I think it's interesting. It seems like a lot of fun, but it definitely seems like one of those games where, like I said, if you start struggling and you get behind, it's one of those frustrating games where it's like, shit, like what do we do now? So yeah, that's just my
totally. So I'm excited to hear for my rebuttal on this. All right, so this is the thing about this draft that I've been kind of, I hoped you brought up. I hoped you threw in different counters, and I challenge you to throw more counters on top of this. So if you're looking at this draft, obviously you said Weaver has a problem with Earth Spirit, 100%. Earth Spirit kind of craps on that hero, just kind of keeps him at a hard situation because he has the stun, the silence, just keeps him locked down for forever. Also, you got Beastmaster, and Beastmaster stun is nothing to shake a nose at, because, like, I mean, you have the initiation with the Earth Spirit, you have the continued initiation if you have any way to purge it, which that's kind of like the idea of the draft, is that you don't let people have the purging ability. So you kind of have to draft around that and move into that kind of pattern. So if you have the Beastmaster and the Earth Spirit, I feel like it kind of counteracts that part of the hero. Yes, you still have the ability to time lapse versus the CM with her hold, but you have a lot of potential there other than that. And you still have quite a bit of damage from the Shadow Demon, especially if you can go into like a Veil. So, and it's all like timer based. Like, he doesn't like rewind the ticks on him, because the ticks go on him and then they just exist. So he can rewind, and then you hit all your ticks, and then he dies. So it's kind of a lose-lose situation for him. The other hero that I was thinking of, you said, oh man, what did you say? Phoenix. You said Phoenix, and I thought about that, and that is why I went for the Beastmaster, because then you get the AoE area of effect on the auto attacks. So you get faster attack speed. You have the potential, because you're right, PL does not work very well against them. The illusions don't really help, and there's not a lot of potential of them to live, and you just farm off of all of his illusions and gain a ton of money as a Phoenix, which is very, very, very useful. But the thing is Beastmaster has the availability of jumping in, just getting lots of auto attacks out, and yeah, it's gonna be kind of hard to stop him from healing someone and keeping them alive, but you still have the constant damage. If you have the Shadow Demon poison being thrown on them, yes, you keep them alive, so to say, but I mean, you know, the amount of stack damage that can come out, and all the explosive damage if you have a Veil and a Soul Catcher on a target. That guy's going down. Like, you can throw all the heals you want on him. Unless he's an Abaddon, that guy's dead. So I'm actually really excited on that side of things. Like, yeah, there's potential with what you're trying to say, that, like, yeah, if you fall behind, you're pretty much screwed. I could hear that, because there's not a lot of flash farming within the group. There's flash farming in the jungle, sort of, with the Shadow Demon, and you can kind of... But the whole idea is that you don't get behind, right? Because PL is a decent laner, and if you have a focus with Earth Spirit, if you have a focus on mid and his lane, he's going to be able to exist better. With the Beastmaster, you're not going to get behind, because you have the potential of going into the ability of, oh man, going into just being able to go into the jungle in general and getting farm from there. So I'm just excited about this draft, because I actually went through all the heroes, and it's the first time I've ever gotten to the end, and I actually threw in the sniper because I was like, I kind of have to worry about it.
Yeah. So okay. While you were talking, I kind of switched up different things here and there. My initial reaction draft, my just gut draft, was Weaver, Earthshaker, Phoenix, Timber, Warlock. The only issue I saw was the Timber mid versus the magic damage Shadow Demon can put out. And then the Earthshaker could have potential, like off lane, potentially have trouble with the Earth Spirit if he, goes back up into bot lane and Earthshaker goes out too far, gets caught out. Iron Talon and Earthshaker off lane though is great. I've done it a few times. It actually works out a lot better than I thought it would. But I felt like with that lineup, you have 2 sustain for Weaver. Who exactly do you roar, right? You can roar the Weaver, and you Warlock anytime anybody comes up to that roared person. Like, you just drop the rock. Like, roars down, rocks down. Like, I feel like most fights. And then, like I said, with the Phoenix and Timber and Earthshaker, I feel like all those heroes obviously do with illusions very well. So the main issue with all those heroes is the silence from Earth Spirit, in my opinion. On Earthshaker, I would probably go a Lotus Orb after Blink. I'd probably get my my boots, my Soul Ring, a Blink, and then I would probably go Lotus Orb afterwards to help out either who is roared or who is being focused on, etc. Or even on myself if I'm going to jump in and try to kill someone. So that was my original draft. I didn't know if I liked the Timber mid, so I kind of was like, oh, we could put Viper mid, or we could do something else different. But yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting to watch. I wish there was like a simulation like there is with like sports games where you theorycraft this team and you draft this team and then you put them up against each other and it's like, oh, that's what happened. I wish there was a way to do that in Dota besides just like bots or something.
Oh yeah, definitely, because you can't really like program the different styles and rotations out of the game either. So I do like the idea of the offlane Earthshaker. I didn't think of that. There is the potential of him being able to be roamed on though, and me being able to steal the stacks with Crystal Maiden. I didn't think of that. I think that's probably your best bet is because I think support Earthshaker just sucks. Like,
yeah, he's not great. So.
He's lost his potential, man. He's just not what he used to be. And
I really like him. I was just saying I really like him in the off lane. But yeah, as a support, he's just
yeah,
not great. But I've had some games with him in the off lane, and the Iron Talon build, like if I'm having issues or whatever, I'll just go into Iron Talon, go into the jungle, and get my 6, and then roam. And once you have your 6, like if you have just one person, even if it's just the Warlock or that mid Timber comes up, that PL is likely dead from your Fissure, your Small Stun, and then your Echo, like whatever you initiate with. Like I feel like the PL is dead unless he like times the whatever it's called, his
illusion split.
Yeah,
thing.
His escape, his split. Yeah, if he times it correctly, then that's probably an issue. But but yeah,
and that's a classic counter in the book, right? You go into this big Echo Slam guy, and I totally agree with you on that point. Thing is, though, he does have to deal with the spam. I mean, his spam is about as long as PL's spam. Like PL's Lance spam on him, you kind of push him out of lane. You'd have to go into the jungle at that point, be a little bit slower. I haven't tried out what you're saying. I do like what you're saying. I just haven't seen it in play as the off lane, really. Have they done it in tournaments at all lately?
I haven't seen it. The only thing I've seen is the off lane pull where you throw the Fissure down and you're pulling it and all that. But I haven't seen the Iron Talon thing. I just tried it in a game because I was getting wrecked in the off lane. And it ended up working out really well because I would take the big camp you're not at that point, you're not maxing Fissure. Like a lot of people like to max the Fissure for the damage, but at that point you're kind of maxing your damage so you can help jungle, and you would still have one on Fissure. But and it was against an illusion hero, actually. I think it might have been PL. And I came out and just kind of echoed him. It's like, all right, that guy's dead. Moved along, and the game actually ended up going over pretty well. But I don't think it's been used like in pro games or anything like that. I haven't seen it.
Okay, okay, that's cool. I just thought it was a really innovative idea, and I was like, oh man, I didn't even think of that. All right, so then actually Viper mid, I hear what you're saying with the whole dealing with the magic damage, but could he deal with all that magic damage with the setup of Earth Spirit on top of him? Like there's a good roaming duo, and you can leave PL alone once he gets like level 3, because he has the escape, he has the harassment spam, and you have Aquila by then, and you have your CM aura. So you have a lot of mana regen just to be able to spam anyone out of lane, unless they rotate 2 people out. Then if they rotate 2 people out, well, they got Beastmaster coming in and harassing their carry, which, I mean, if anyone's ever played that matchup, it's very hard to 1v1 a Beastmaster, or even 2v1 a Beastmaster sometimes. He just has a lot of potential in the offlane. So, I see what you're saying, and I like that idea, but I feel like the potential on just a raw amount of damage that you can deal with the blast is just too much for him. And you can set up so many with those supports. Those supports have so much lockdown that you can keep setting up the waves on top of them. Whereas if you didn't have that setup and you went for if you used him more as a support, a lot of times your mid can't really help you set up on that, and that's kind of the problem with the hero where he stands right now, to have all those. Why poison doesn't work in general at this stage, and the illusions are being nerfed to a point where they're not very useful for the whole Luna push anymore. And
Right.
if you see that pickup, aren't you going to think, oh, they're going to go like Luna or Drow strat? Like that's what people think now. So you can kind of like force their hand at this point because of where the meta is at right now, and push them into a stage where they think about the draft, and you can kind of like, okay, they're going to go this way, then I'm going to go that way, type mentality, and really throw them for a loop. But is there any other heroes? Okay, rethinking this out, is there any other heroes you're like, what if you got this guy or this guy? Because like I said, I'm super proud of this draft.
I'm sure there's a few. I was just thinking when you're talking about rolling in on Earth Spirit and all that, it's really risky. It's high risk in my opinion, because if you roll in on a Viper and say the Phoenix TP's in, right, and he hits at level 4 and he sunrays that Viper, and that Viper's just living through the damage that you're putting out, and he's just like, this Earth Spirit just rolled in on me, and I'm just going to continue to poison attack him, and he's going to die. So that can be an issue, but I understand what you're saying, and I agree that Viper's not going to 1v2 those heroes. If he has a rotation, depending on how fast and if they time it correctly, I feel like it would probably even out. Maybe put it in Viper's favor if he has heals, and that with Phoenix, the heal has damage as well. Any other heroes mid against Shadow Demon? Not really. I mean, I don't know. There's been a few 1v1s that I've done as Shadow Demon mid, and people are like really irritated when I do it. But maybe someone with high range, like Alina, would be okay. She just got to make sure she doesn't get constantly stacked from that poison. Because when you're melee or your close range, it's harder to dodge that poison attack, because obviously you're not seeing it as, like, if you're far away, it's like, oh, there's his poison attack coming or whatever the skill's called, and you just kind of move out of the way. But as a melee hero or a close range hero, it's kind of harder to do. But so I feel like with Lena, you'd be okay.
You wouldn't be able to be as aggressive though, because then you'd start getting your own stacks and you'd get your own waves.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of times where Lenas are kind of like forcing up on the creep wave, and they'll wave whenever you're on the creep wave as like a melee hero, kind of not only harassing you but giving a lot of potential for what they can do in lane, kind of just pushing you out in general. So you have that right. Like obviously the idea of it's spot on where like you're going to be further back, but the thing is I don't think you're going to be able to harass as much as Alina. And if you're not harassing as much as Lena, then it's kind of a wash in lane. And you don't want Alina to wash in lane. Whereas like Shadow Demon, it sucks to wash in lane, but he has like the potential to do other things when it comes to a team fight, not just blow people up. So
you could also you could do like a warlock mid if you want to get like crazy, because he has a heal to kind of sustain, and I feel like he's one of the better harassers in lane. But I don't know how that would go up against Shadow Demon. Or like a Zeus, something, like I said, something range that can kind of, I think a Zeus would be okay. Zeus still harasses that Shadow Demon with his Arc Lightning, and he's still able to stay back a little bit. But yeah, I don't see very many after that. Puck would be hit and miss. So I don't know. The hero, the Shadow Demon mid is just, it's one of those lanes where it's like, you either win or you probably lose. I don't think there's a whole lot of trading unless like we talked with Lena or something like that, but it's kind of hard to stay in that lane if you're getting harassed constantly by the shadow poison. So
yeah. So now we've kind of talked this out. We kind of knew about the bands ahead of time. We were kind of thinking about it already. So I just want to go through them real quick for those of you at home, or those of you who are just listening in on this draft. So my bans for this idea is basically take out all of the guys that are going to be the wave clear, the guys that really destroy illusions. And my idea for this is basic, and the idea that this draft is going to have to be a first pick. So you're going to first pick this Earth Spirit, and it's not going to reveal that you're going into the illusion. So you can kind of play with it from there. So you want to ban out Axe first, because he has a lot of potential on clearing, and he has a lot of potential for other heroes in the game. They can think of like Slark, they can think of... there's a lot of other melee heroes that are strong right now, like... So... Ursa. Ursa can destroy him, actually. But, like, you can go decently versus Lifestealer, not the best. You can go well versus Jug, most definitely. You can have a lot of potential. Oh, Shane, we lost you.
Really? What?
Yeah, our feed of you just... Okay, we're good.
Okay.
So, Alright, so we got the availability of Abaddon next. We don't want Abaddon to be able to purge off the Beastmaster stun or the silence from the Earth Spirit. So you're going Axe Abaddon, and you're not revealing too much at this point. Now, also, Abaddon is someone who has the potential of being banned out first, and that's why you don't want to ban him out. Because if you go Axe, and you ban out the Axe first, they're going to be the second pick. And they're probably not. They're probably thinking, okay, we don't want them to pick Abaddon first because it's an incredible beginning pick. There's not a lot of potential that you can do to stop it. It kind of exists in lane and does a lot for the team. So if you can kind of bait them into banning that first, then win-win for you. And you can then ban Legion on your second pick. So you get rid of both of the guys who have the Purge ability. And it doesn't reveal too much about your strat because they're thinking about two different things. They're just kind of falling into the style that you want to play in. So you can kind of go into that kind of feel to it. And if they end up not banning the Abaddon, you just ban the Abaddon, pick up the Earth Spirit, and go Beastmaster at the end. They won't see the Beastmaster coming. So if they don't pick up the Legion in the first phase, that's when you go into this draft. And you go Beastmaster, and then your second phase, you're going to ban out the Legion. Unless you banned it in the first. So you ban out that Legion, and if you did ban it out beforehand, you ban out Mag here. Because you want to stop the wave clear, you want to stop the potential of just locking everyone down in a team fight. Because that's going to be the problem. So you need to have these guys that are just incredibly good in team fight kind of be taken away. Tide's not a problem. All these other heroes that exist are not problems for this draft. Only Mag is a problem. And it's only if they have the potential of seeing through the draft at this point. So that's why you would save him as a ban. Then the fourth ban is Outworld. Outworld Devourer is incredible versus illusions, has so much potential for right-click single target, and actually can kind of save people that Shadow Demon has poison stacked up. He can save Beastmaster people, kind of takes out the single target damage that you're so proud of in this draft. So you really have to have him banned out. And they're not really going to pick him in the first phase because it just reveals too much about their draft. And then the very last final ban is a sniper. And you want to ban sniper just because if you do get to the potential of where late game starts getting crazy, when you start getting to 18, 20, maybe even like 22, having the shrapnel and just being able to sit in the back and blow people up is very, very strong. And Earth Spirit has a long initiation, but he doesn't have that long of an initiation. And if you're going up against a sniper, you almost have to change your whole build-up in general. You would almost want to go into an Ags on Earth Spirit, go blink Ags, blink in on top of the sniper, and kick him forward at that point to then blow him up. And you don't want to sacrifice your Earth Spirit, you don't want to force your Earth Spirit to go down those items, because then you kind of lose out on other parts about the draft. So it's more of to stop certain things from existing that you just don't want to play around. It wouldn't be awful, but it would be a little less advantageous than the other way around. And that kind of finishes up the bans. Is there anything that you think is like kind of weird about these at all? I almost called you Faf. Jeez. Kimbrell.
No, I think they're really good bans. I think I'm curious which ban you think you could replace, like if you needed to, and just absolutely, like would it be the sniper? Would it be the Outworld?
You have to ban Outworld. Like there's no way that him working in the draft works at all. Like he just beats this.
So say somebody picks up a sniper. Say they pick him up right before you're banning. What are you going to ban last instead of sniper?
I would probably ban the Magnus or someone that can just like kind of collapse, counter collapse. Because I would want to pick, like I was saying, I wanted to have the Blink Dagger and the Ags, and the idea of that is to collapse on the guy that you Ags and turn into a rock and kick towards your team. You want to collapse on that guy. And if you have someone like Mag who can kind of counter that collapse and jump in and then ult and keep everyone locked down and just let Sniper eat them alive, that's going to be the problem, more so than anything else.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's kind of...
Yeah. I think they're all good bans. They all make sense. Plus Sniper versus Shadow Demon mid is kind of... That's one of those that we talked about earlier that you kind of that you're going to trade on most likely, and Sniper could eventually potentially get aggressive with you, as long as he's not getting stacked on with the poison. So
right, and he's much better to trade on because he's the potential of what he does with an item is much stronger than what Shadow Demon can do, and I'll admit that fully. Yeah, that's definitely a weakness in that situation. Yeah, so. I've kind of, let's go into items here. Let's kind of move into items. What do you think? I'm curious, as a Shadow Demon player yourself, what do you think Shadow Demon mid is going to go?
I mean, you should be getting a decent amount of farm, right? You're able to harass with the Shadow Poison, plus take stacks of Shadow Poison. So, you want a mobility item, whether it's Blink or Force. I think maybe... Force could be fun, I think, because you could go into like a Pike, but I'm not sure. You mentioned Veil. I think Veil would be really good, especially with the team that you have, because you have Crystal Maiden, you have the damage coming from Earth Spirit, then you Phantom Lancer even puts off magical damage, so that would be good. Even supporting type items like a Yules would be good for the movement speed. I think an Ags is okay eventually. Guardian Greaves. I don't know. There's a lot of ways you can take it. Would you go Midas at all? Do you think to help you along with the magic? I know Midas got nerfed with the XP, but with the not magic, but the money, would you go hand a Midas at all, or would you just kind of skip over it and go into your items and get like a Force Staff or something?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking it more to be. It's a good idea for sure, and I didn't even think of it, to be honest, on the Midas standpoint. But I think it'd be a little too focused on a part of the game where you're gonna be like not the strongest anyway. You're not gonna want the
Right.
late game, so you could definitely go it, and it could kind of help you get to these further points. But I'm thinking that you have to have that veil up as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So what I went for with the Shadow Demon is I said, all right, you start off with Null, Fairy, and a branch. Fairy, Fire, and a branch. And when you actually get the rune, you get generally 100 gold, so you grab 2 clarities instead of the normal health pot in lane. And you just keep the clarities on you constantly, and you just throw out the harassment, use the ability to do that, to just kind of exist in lane and force people out by spamming them down. Now there's also the other side of the coin. I'd be fine with going into a health pot, especially if you're going like versus like Sniper or Lena or these guys that have this harassment that kind of stall through your draft in general. I just feel like if they have the potential of like grabbing the Tinker or grabbing a PA or grabbing all of these other heroes that I think he matches up really well versus picking up those clarities could be really, really useful.
Another thing I was thinking about Shadow Demon is, so when you're using your Shadow Poison, are you wanting to use it just to push down the lane, push them down, harass the hell out of them, and win your lane, or are you mainly using it to harass them but not nuke the wave as well? You know what I'm saying?
It's kind of a situation where you have to see what's available to you, and it kind of goes back and forth, and it's something I've worked with a lot by playing Shadow Demon mid. You want to use it to push the wave if you're going to have the potential of forcing people to come to rotate to try to gank you. Like if you can force all of the lanes to push at once, especially if they're like giving up on top and Phantom Lancer can just start pushing at that point, then I think that you harass them and push the wave. But if there's just general beginning, there's no real feeling, you kind of stand off to the side and you wave certain areas that you wave different people that are going to be like on the sideline. You kind of just wave around the creeps and harass them at the same time, and then get last hits, and then whenever they try to go for a last hit, you harass instead. You throw out a wave while they're trying to last hit. So they do get some farm, and they have some potential, but you should be able to get lots of damage output on them, and even possibly get a kill if your supports rotate at the right time.
Right. I was just wondering, because if you're harassing and say you're up against a melee hero and you're wanting to harass them, and they're just kind of taking it while they're hitting, like, so you're pushing the lane while harassing, and eventually I feel like if you're doing that constantly, like, you're eventually going to be on their high ground more than you kind of want to be, especially because then you kind of allow yourself to be available for ganks. But yeah, anyway, go ahead with your items on Shadow Demon.
Okay, so keeping on with this spirit, we got this Null, Fairy, and Branch with 2 clarities or health pot or whatever. You then go into Boots, Veil, and just these are regular brown boots. Boots, Veil, Mana Boots, Blink. So you need to have the potential of being able to spam out. Even with having Crystal Maiden Aura, you're still going to have a lot of spamming to do, and you're going to need the availability of having the extra mana pool and the big mana bump for Mana Boots with the usage of Veil, Soul Catcher, spamming. It's just, there's too much mana being used. So you have to kind of fill that void that he has, because that's the real problem with a Shadow Demon mid. And then obviously you get the blink to kind of initiate fights. You can blink in, like I was saying before about with the Arc Warden, or if you're going into like Terrorblade or whatever, if you need that potential to save people or just kind of start fights in general. So you get that blink, and as the late game kind of approaches, or like early game, or not early game, the mid game kind of approaches, I think Ags is absolutely necessary. So if you're going up against especially Magic Immune Heroes, which is very popular right now, and that's why I think it's necessary. You need the multiple charges to keep them locked down, and to still be able to deal the damage that you were doing before. Plus, let's be honest, Break is crazy good right now. There's so many heroes that it just destroys that are in the meta. And
Ags, that hero is my favorite item ever.
Yep.
Like, it's my favorite Ags. Sorry to interrupt you. It's just I have to gush about it. It's just one of my favorite ones. Like, it's one, it puts out a lot of damage. If you have to stack it off all three of them on one person, like, it still puts out a crap ton of damage. Or if they're just kind of like I said, back in the sniper troll warlord meta, it was just like they're, you know, trying to high ground and they run up on the high ground and you just lay it down on 3 different heroes and they're all just like, oh shit, what do we do? And then you're just killing them. I don't know. It's great. It's one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, and you can keep people at that range, right? You can just like shut people down. You can let all your other guys kind of do different things. You can let Phantom Lancer be going crazy around these guys while they're being super slow. They're broken, so they're not getting like crits and giant waves of like cleave if you're going up against Sven or whatever. It's just the Ags just shuts down heroes really, really easily and kind of lets him be useful as a core. And then I actually go into, instead of going into something that he can purge off, like going into like a silence staff or something, going into a ghost and glimmer. Because after a while, blink is nice to help keep you alive, but it's not a guarantee to keep you alive. Whereas ghost can kind of give you that buffer barrier and kind of allow you to, if you get silenced or something, you can go into that. Or if you get, you know, into a position where you have to egg someone else and then you have to save yourself, it's also nice. And then moving into the ethereal with Shadow Poison and Veil, it's like the TI, what was TI 6, last year's TI, EG versus eHome, like the best thing I've ever been a part of in my entire life. And the episode, and in that game, they had a bunch of E-Blades, a bunch of magic damage, and they just came out and they took over Megas because they had so many Dagons, E-Blades, and they just exploded people. With AA's area of effect, he like put down extra magic damage, and they just melted. And there was like 6-slotted Timber Saws and stuff like that who like don't die to magic damage. And they just like died in 2 seconds. And that's kind of the idea, right? Is like, okay, you're adding up all this magic damage. You just, if you're going something, you go heavy into it. And then you can also be this other hero. Whenever the BKBs first get bought, you can be this hero that kind of gives a barrier. You can ethereal one of your allies if they're getting going on. And then you can egg another one. And you can ags like 3 people. So you just have all of this crowd control in a team fight at that point. And you still have a blink to be able to keep yourself alive. I was also thinking, I was kind of teetering at this point because could be kind of a important item in general, but Yules is something that I was considering, and I was kind of getting your thought on it. Like, if they go a lot of silence, it would probably be good, but do you think it's like core, you have to get it, you know, 60% of the games or more?
On Shadow Demon mid, I don't know, I feel like it's not absolutely necessary, especially if you're getting the blink, because the movement speed is great, but with a blink you don't really need it. But if they do, like you mentioned, if they do have a lot of silences or something like that, then probably, yeah, unless you're getting Greaves, unless you're the only like potential Greaves carrier. That item has like a 65% win rate or something like that on Shadow Demon. So I have always built them as a support on Shadow Demon, and I always get sad because I'm like, I kind of need to go Greaves over Ags. But so yeah, I would say, I mean, if they have a lot of silences or something like that, then the Yules is great. But if not, then I don't think it's necessary.
So this is kind of, I'm actually thinking that my draft idea is that Earth Spirit would pick up the Greaves. So going into Earth Spirit's items, I was thinking, very beginning, you go OOV, or OOV, or Orb of Venom. Should have just said Orb of Venom. Courier, Tangos, and Clarity. Just basic Earth Spirit items, you have a little bit of money left over, but then you can kind of go into your boots a little bit quicker, and hopefully you don't get ganked. You can always buy TPs or smokes or whatever on the side, depending on the game. You can go into, after that, you want to go into boots, urn, and mana boots. Kind of, you still need that potential for all the other heroes, because Beastmaster uses a lot of mana, Shadow Demon uses a lot of mana, and it's always nice to just be able to have a Phantom Lancer just being able to spam as much as possible with his lances to be able to farm as much as possible. So you kind of have that potential there, and then you go into Greaves after that. You know, when you're hitting that mid to late game, you kind of go to Greaves, Force, Glimmer type path. And then, like we talked about earlier, if it's going up against Sniper, you have that blink into Ag Scepter to force him back in. And that's what I was kind of saying. You know, it's like you would have to 100% forego the Greaves at that point, and then make Shadow Demon go into Greaves. And that's why I was like, I don't really like Sniper versus this, and that's kind of why I would ban him as the last pick in that scenario. So, yeah, so that's Earth Spirit, Earth Spirit and Shadow Demon, and then I'm thinking about Beastmaster, and what's the thing that I can take advantage of by using all this mana potential between Shadow Demon, Crystal Maiden, and Earth Spirit, and I thought that Iron Talon Tangos is the best way to start it off, guarantee that you exist in lane, and then go into a casual Blight with Tranquil Boots and Necrobook. Just guarantee that you are able to just push stuff down, constantly be using mana, don't worry about anything else, just keep your life up while everyone else keeps your mana up. And then going into Blink, because obviously if you have that Earth Spirit going in, you're going to want that potential as well with him. And then actually, like, there's a lot of stuff you can go from there, but I think the only thing that's really, really core is Vlad's. Because if you're going for Phantom Lancer, or if you're going for Terrorblade, that is incredible for both of them. So, I think that he's kind of one of those heroes that has a lot of potential of doing whatever at that point. You know, you could go into, like, Nova, or, God, freaking Hontrash, sorry. I meant Shiva's, or go into even going into the availability of getting AC for the team at that point. I think is incredibly strong. So that's kind of what I'm thinking with him. Is there anything else that you would go on him at all?
I mean, the only other item I've ever gone is Blink, if it's needed. But if it's not needed, then AC is really good. Vlad's, like you said, is pretty crucial. It's an item that I've skipped before on that hero, but it's really good in certain situations. So I don't think so. There's really nothing else unless you're like super farmed late game, then you like a refresher or something like that. But I think AC would be the pickup, especially since you're one to push.
And I was actually considering Deso. Do you think Deso would be decent, or even like, you know, going into maybe? Oh, maybe you could go into like Medallion and into Solar Crest and kind of like beef up your Phantom Lancer a little bit more, or Shadow Demon.
Yeah, or you could do that, or you could like Solar Crest the Roared person and just ensure they like are absolutely just gonna die.
Yeah.
But Dessa would be interesting since no one else is gonna have it, and you're wanting to push, obviously. So Dessa AC with the Necro and Vlad's, like, you're the ultimate push machine, right? So.
Yeah, that sounds like, what was that? Moo, whenever Moo like TP'd in and like took her out like all 3 Raxes. That sounds like a Moo Beastmaster draft for sure. And that's kind of what I'm thinking is like that'd be super fun, but you can also, I want him to be useful with the team, you know, though too. So that's why I was wary about putting in that Deso. But I'm glad that you like it as well. All right, so then we got Crystal Maiden. Crystal Maiden's got her beginning 4 wards. I strongly suggest this. Whenever you're playing Crystal Maiden, if you can find someone to buy the Courier, then you always buy 4 wards. You buy the 2 obs and you buy 2 sentries. The sentries are obviously there to, one's the D-ward wherever you are in lane, because there's going to be one in the off lane, and then most likely put the other one in mid, because they're going to generally see that, or just have it for later in the game, whether it's going to you know, have the availability of them picking up a Shadow Blade versus you or something like that. The Invis is such a big deal right now, and it's not done enough, and it drives me insane when people don't do it as a 5, because like I play 5 constantly, 5 and 4. So I always go 4 wards, clarity, tangos, smoke, just every time, and from there I go into tranquils. I'm gonna put it down again because sometimes supports need this reminder. Obviously you don't, Kimbrell, but other people out there do. Tranquil, wards, courier upgrade. That's all you should be doing in the beginning, just giving the availability to keep everyone else alive. Maybe pick up raindrops on any of these heroes if you need it, especially Crystal Maiden, because you know she's like squishy as hell, and you're gonna be buying a bunch of wards anyway. And really, I mean, classic Crystal Maiden stuff, Force Staff and Glimmer. That's pretty much what you should be going for always on the hero. If you have extra, I actually have been really, really, really enjoying Rod of Atos. It's I know it's another route, but it's a route that's further than your route, and you can just stack routes like almost constantly, and it's really fun because you have a bunch of mana with all of the intelligence bump, and you have a bunch of hit points because of the obvious use of the vitality booster. So really cool stuff, and actually it's something that I've really enjoyed with her, as like a lot of people start picking up Lotus Orbs as the game goes later on, and if you can have that availability with a with the Rod of Atos, you can actually keep someone locked down, and it sends it right back to you, and it keeps you locked down, roots you, but you can still cast, you can still do your ultimate, you can still do your Nova and all of your other roots on the other people. So you're locking down the person that they're trying to save, and you're locking down everyone else as well, and it's not going to hurt you. So yeah, I can't get enough of that item, and it's something I always suggest.
Rod of Atos is great.
Yeah, yeah.
I've picked it up as, I think you watched that game the other day, and we might have actually talked about it last week, but I picked it up on Jakiro when they had the other team had a Storm Spirit, and it was just like I would use my Yules, pop his Lincolns, use the Rod of Atos, dead Storm Spirit.
Yep. Just all of the lockdown, especially that Storm Spirit or Ember Spirit, any of the spirits, just like you're not moving, buddy. So going to Phantom Lancer, we got a little bit of a different build here. It starts off like you think it would. Go into Wraith and Tangos, and from there you go Boots, Aquila, Treads, Yasha, Diffusal. Classic Phantom Lancer build, really nothing new there. But you need to go Manta, Bots, and I've been torn. I think I would actually go Bots first and then Manta, but just the potential of what Manta can do for you in split pushing terms and just pushing in general is just so great. I think you have to pick up Manta first, even though I'd love to see Bots first, because if you can have those bots early enough, you can do what I was saying with Shadow Demon, egg an illusion of Phantom Lancers, or egg a Phantom Lancer himself, and you can then have him like push down a lane as the Phantom Lancer illusions of Shadow Demon, and then have Phantom Lancer TP to another lane. Just some cool little play that you can have there. And then I would go Ags. You go Ags, it's actually incredibly useful. You have all of this mana, and you can burst people down. You have a lot of survivability with it, and it just has a lot of potential. And then go into Heart, just keep your guy tanky. You're gonna have Aura Man as Beastmaster. You're gonna have all this mana with the other people, so just keep your core alive and able to hit with his Diffusal as much as possible. So, yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Would you build any of these guys differently?
No, actually not at all. And I was just thinking, you might have mentioned this earlier, and I just didn't think about it. But with the Shadow Demon PL, does Shadow Demon's illusion spawn illusions just like it was? Is it like an exact copy where it would spawn the illusions from his Phantom Lancer's Okay, so you could essentially have constant illusions, right? If nobody comes into your lane to interrupt you, you could disrupt the Phantom Lancer. That creates illusions, and you've got at max disruption, there's a I want to say like a 4, yeah, there's a 4-second difference. So it's an 18 cooldown, and then you got 14 illusion duration. So then you have the illusions lasting from the passive on PL. You just disrupt one of those illusions, and it's like constant illusions. If you mentioned that earlier, I'm terribly sorry. But I was just thinking about that, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah, right? Right? So you have all this push in all the lanes, just so much potential there. And that's why I was saying, like, I love Phantom Lancer in this draft because it has that potential of just, you just throw it all the illusions down everywhere, and like, instead of having 5 heroes, you have 5 billion. So, you know, it's just an interesting way to go. And I think that Terrorblade could be better even beyond that. So I don't want to like say like Phantom Lancer is the only way to do it, because like there's definitely potential with Arc Warden and Terrorblade as well as Phantom Lancer. And that's kind of the beauty about the draft, is you can kind of tailor it at the end to whatever you want, and in the illusion game, whatever type of illusion you want. So, yeah. Is there anything else that you feel about this draft in general that you feel like there's something we missed, or something that we should talk about?
I don't think so. I mean, we hit most of the points. I did my little argument for a little while. It's like I said earlier, it's interesting. It's one that you definitely don't want to fall behind in. If you manage to not fall behind, you should definitely you should do pretty well with it. So I like it.
Thank you. All right. Well, what we've all been waiting for, right? We want to hear about the beer that we've been drinking. So, Kimbrell, how do you rate your beer, bud?
Okay, so I've had this beer before, and I haven't had it in a while. I've had it, I think last time I had it was when I was in Kansas, which was like a year ago. So I give it, for an IPA, I give it a 5. As a beer overall, I give it, just in general, like one I just want to drink all the time, I would give it just like a 4. So it's pretty good. It's one that I've always enjoyed. So yeah, what about you? How was yours with your interesting, really cool, actually, art design on the front of it? It's so simple, but I liked it.
Yeah, right? It's super cool. A little fun fact about me is that I am a ridiculous milk drinker. Like, I drink milk on the daily, like almost 3/4 of a gallon a day. Like,
Where are you from again?
I'm Indiana.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I'm the same way in Oklahoma. I don't know if it's like a Midwestern thing or what, but it's...
I'm pretty sure it is. We just, like, we have cows around here all the time, so it's like, you know, whatever. No, I don't know what it is, if it's that, or if it's just, it's something about the I'm not even Midwest. I'm technically East Coast, but... Yeah,
I guess so.
I don't know, like...
I don't know.
I'm the most un-East Coast state that's ever existed, so... But yeah, I love milk, and milk stout is awesome. So I'm going to give this a 4.5 out of 5. It's almost perfect. I actually think that other coffee that I had, the coffee stout, the Storvash, I can't like stop talking about it because that one's like incredible. But this one's just like a step underneath it. Yeah, Udder Love. Good stuff, guys. Good stuff. All right.
Sweet.
Well, sadly, we have to close out the show now. So we're going to have to start closing out. To help us out or subscribe to any of our videos, you can go to our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Toffees_Dota2. You can go to our YouTube channel and find any of our videos there at 5 Midas Gaming. If you want to listen to any of our podcasts instead of VODs, you know, you can listen to them on Stitcher, iTunes, or SoundCloud. You can give to our Patreon if you're feeling extra generous at www.patreon.com/Toffees. You can also, if you have any questions for me or Toffees or Kimbrell, you can always follow us at our Twitter pages. You can follow Toffees at Toffees TV. You can follow me at my Twitter at Flubb Dota. And you can follow Kimbrell at skimbrell_, always with a little tail. We got, if you have any questions, concerns, if you want to say something that you like about this week, something that you didn't like, we're going to be trying to do a couple different new things over the next couple of weeks. So I just want to try to encourage you guys to write in, tell me what you guys think, or if you want me to cast any games of yours, let me know by sending me an email at crazyflubb@gmail.com. All right, I'm glad that you guys were able to share a brew with us today. And I hope that you guys have a good rest of the week. And I'll see you next week. Catch you guys later.
Bye, everyone.